Welcome to the Teens Talk podcast, created by the Student Virtual Board of You Celebrate Diversity. You Celebrate Diversity supports students and teachers organizing locally, educating themselves and their peers, and taking action for inclusion and social justice. For more information, visit ycdiversity.org. Welcome back to Season 2, which is all about community building. Today, I'm joined with Jimena Christerna to discuss mental health in the community. Before I get into everything, I want to remind you guys that I'm a virtual intern for You Celebrate Diversity. My name is Lameese, and I'm based in Colorado, and I'm going to allow my co-facilitator to take the stage.
Hi, I'm so excited to talk. So my name is Jimena. I am also based in Colorado, and I don't think we're gonna get into this, right? But a little bit about me. I'm 20 years old. I'm Latina, first gen, daughter of immigrants, but also a independent woman as it is. So I'm definitely learning how to branch out from essentially having my identity be attached to all of these things like family or school or academics. And so I'll still cover those. I went to school for a semester and a half at Metro State University of Denver. And then I decided to take a break. And so as of now, I'm just literally exploring everything and anything. I did a little bit of interpreting as well as swim instruction. I'm now a CNA. And so I'm definitely able to understand how mental health and just existing mean what it means in all these different areas. So I'm just excited we get to talk.
Okay, no, but that being said, we again are talking about community building in all its aspects. But community building is the backbone of culture. The right community provides you with much needed love and support. Everyone needs a community, and it can look different all over the world. The important thing is building a community with the right intention, as well as understanding the possible obstacles that you could face. Honestly, like we touched in the last episode, community is a beautiful thing, but it can also be really complicated and come with a lot of its own pros and cons, whatever you want to call it. And with that can come a lot of toxicity, and it can be really hard on the members of the communities. I remember I talked a little bit about my Sudanese community, and I love my community with all my heart, but with all communities, not just to hone in on that specific one. A lot of the ones I'm a part of, there's really the amazing part of being a part of something bigger than yourself, and feeling like you have family, like real friends that are going to help you through this journey of life, if you want to call it. But the reality of the situation is you also have a lot of people that are really more concerned with keeping tradition, and they're not really about the growth aspect, as more of you wanting to conform. They want you to conform, right? And it becomes a thing of like, unfortunately, in my experience, and maybe this isn't talked about enough, maybe it is, I don't know, but I have found many people that haven't really been able, and it's hard, it's not an easy thing to do at all, it's easier said than done, but they haven't been able to really take control of their lives. So they kind of just accept whatever life their maybe parents or aunties, uncles, friends, whatever, have kind of set for them as what is socially acceptable within the community. And then because they don't have the ability to take control of their life, they get almost a little mad, maybe even jealous at the people in the community that might feel a little more inclined to do that for any particular reason. And then they honestly try to set them up to fail. Like they try to force them out of them. They don't want individuality. They don't want anyone to like it. In their eyes, it's how come you get to be yourself and I don't. And it's honestly, it really is a very challenging emotion to have, because I can see where it's coming from. Of course, it's not your right to change, to really take control of anyone's life, but that's just a common theme I've seen growing up, and it's caused a lot of different kinds of trust issues with people. I don't always know if you really have my back. Like, it's been really hard, and so I really wanted to focus on mental health for this episode, because I really don't think enough people, it's really stigmatized within a lot of communities, especially BIPOC communities. But it's so stigmatized that we're too scared to admit when we need help or if we have issues, because we're supposed to be seemingly perfect and conform. So I just wanted to, we by the way, like as I've said before in the last episode, we talk a little bit prior just to get an idea of what we want to talk about, but it's still going to be super organic. But I wanted to see, like, you touched a lot on this in our call.
So thank you for sharing everything that you shared, because you healed a part of me that I never, or not never, I'm not going to use that word. Intentionality with your words is very important. I was hopeless when it came to this. I didn't think that my life story can be essentially summarized in the 2 minutes that you just, or like in the minute that you just talked. And I love that because you encapsulated every single part of me when I was in elementary school, when I was in middle school, high school, post grad, like all of that, or I guess technically in academic terms, that's like post high school. It's a whole thing. But you just touched on so many identities of me, essentially. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about it because we talked about it before in that last episode, but hopefully I can speak of my journey and kind of in, like you said, like in that explain what do you do? What can you do? Is there something you should do, right? All of these words, should, can, need, want, they're very important. And so to kind of explain my life story, I'm the oldest of three. So it's me, my younger sister, she has Down syndrome and autism, and then I have my younger brother who's in high school. So they're both still in high school. And so I growing up in a Latino community and being Latina, right? That meant that as the oldest, I was essentially a third parent. Whether or not my parents knew and whether or not I knew in the moment, that is kind of how community, when you first grow into it, works. You're just always there for your blood family members. That is what you know as community. Whether or not that is going to stay the case as you grow older depends on, like you said, whether they accept you or not, whether they are truthful and faithful and honestly like full of flaws, because that's how we are too. And that's the difficulty, is that when you start your journey of healing, of growth, of empowerment, you then, like you said, get talked down upon. Like, who do you think you are? You think you're better? No, I don't. I just have been able to look at different perspectives, which have allowed me to say what I say now. But you don't know in the moment, and I didn't know in the moment that that was my power. My experience is my power. Like, you cannot take that away from me. You cannot say, no, Jimena, you're wrong. You did not go through that. What? No, that's literally, people don't like using the word, but that's gaslighting. That is gaslighting. And it is so common in our communities, to the point where that's why other communities have made it like funny and cute, and our communities are still suffering, because it's just always, our communities are used to essentially push societal trends, and like the sleek hoop and clean lip. I was so mad because that was my entire, I never did it growing up because I didn't feel Latina enough, yet everyone else got to do it. Wow, right? Like, if only I just knew that I could be who I wanted to be as a kid. But when I was a kid, I had that notion, right? I'm going to make money. I'm going to be rich and powerful. My parents, because as a child of immigrants, you see power dynamics so quickly and so like often in your life. Like, if it's not because of the language barrier, it's because of the citizenship and what that implies for job, like for employment, for loans, for bank accounts, like all of these. Like, I should have not known what an ITIN number was as a 7-year-old. There are 40-year-olds who are like, what is an ITIN number? And I'm like, girl, I've been knowing since I was 7. Right. So what I'm trying to say is that experience helps you. And so when I was in elementary school, I had the notion that I needed to save my family. My family didn't need saving. I learned that now. But when you're a kid and you see your parents struggle to register you for school, when you see your parents struggle at the bank, when you see your parent, right, like it's this struggle that you constantly see, you then internalize all of that. And you're only 5, you're only 6 or 7, right? You're still supposed to be developing. And so I was in 4th grade having our student teacher from Regis University. Oh my gosh, I remember. I was at Palmer Elementary. I remember, right? I was sitting there and I asked the student teacher, and I was like, "Hey, what are the best colleges in the world? Like in the US?" Because all I heard growing up was college success. That's all I knew. I didn't know that the CEO of all of these companies, they all dropped out of college. No one tells you that until after. So I'm there sitting as like a fourth grader saying, I'm going to go to Harvard. I'm going to be a biomedical scientist. I'm going to change the world. That last part is true, but everything else wasn't me because my mom wanted me to be the doctor, right? Because that's what you're told when you get to this country, an education, lawyer, doctor, anything in the medical field, like though that is safe. That is safe. And so that's where the whole notion of safety comes in too, right? That's where our parents didn't feel safe. That's why they left. And that's why it's always this running away. And so with this being the case, I then had that internalized as a middle schooler and I did everything. Oh my gosh, I don't know what seventh grader is thinking about college, but I was, right? Because I was so desperate to just get out of that what felt like hell, and so I don't know if you've read the book, but The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, such, oh my gosh, he, bless his soul, he's amazing. Essentially what it talks about, it goes through what the rules of life are per se. The four agreements are: you don't take anything personal, you don't make any assumptions, you always try your best, and you are impeccable with your word. And so with these agreements, you then are able to kind of, right, this is me in college, not in middle school, but in middle school, I was just doing everything, which then translated to me doing everything in high school. Little did I know that high school existed because no one explained to me that there were elementary, middle, high school, and then college, right? So again, I'm battling these systems where everyone knows what college is, but I just know about Harvard. Doesn't that taint? It doesn't that mean that when you're a student, a learner, right? A learner trying to continue on learning, all you have is Harvard. And you know what? That is a 2% acceptance rate. You want to know what my therapist told me? Let me just make this clear for everyone. I graduated with everything you needed for Harvard. I'm gonna make that clear. Did I apply? No, because I didn't want to in the end. She told me something that stays true to this day. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because I can get into Harvard doesn't mean I should go to Harvard, because I know what the community looks like there and they didn't reflect me. So imagine this. For me, I'm this little brown child, little Latina, right? And even then, I'm not Latina enough for my Mexican community. I'm not white enough. It was always why, like this, you were never enough. And so you're growing up with this notion of, okay, I'm not enough for either one of my communities. I have nothing. Cool. I'm trying to be what my parents want me to be, but there's so much backlash because I'm experiencing a life that they never got to. And so that feeling of anger, jealousy, and like that's where it's just them not having healed their inner child when they could have. But at the same time, when I was in middle school, right, going through all of this of I need to do, I need to do, I need to be, that was when my depression really started taking a hit. I was in seventh grade, 12 years old, when I had my first suicidal thought. It was me planning how I was going to do it. And that's why my sister means so much to me, because she was the only person that popped up in the moment telling me to stay. And so, with that being the case, I was given a therapist. But before I was given a therapist, I had the social worker tell me that I needed therapy. Okay, therapy's not cheap. One. Cool. We're a low income immigrant family. Cool. I can afford that. I can barely afford my uniform. That's what I'm like, are you kidding me? And then she goes on to say, if you don't, you're going to kill yourself by the end of the year. So I was very religious, Catholic at the time. I was going to church I was an altar server. I was in there. Like I wasn't just doing it, I was doing it. And so when you then have your parents who write Catholic as well hear this, they go, why are you denouncing God? All I'm going to say about that. And then it went on to this, the stereotypical, you're crazy, loony tick house, whatever, the crazy cuckoo house. That's the men, right? Like I really hope that people who are watching and listening to this know that we are going to be talking about the stereotypes, because that is what people need to get through first, right? And so just having gone through that as my initial entrance to what mental health was, I mean, I was not sleeping. I was not present. I was not myself. Most importantly, I was not myself. And so when the community strays away from talking about these things, taboo things, right? I think what I most importantly want them to know is that there's some salvation in them that is possible as well, not just in those around you. And that's what I think a lot of people forget, that I too can be a part of this movement. I too can acknowledge my feelings. I too can put myself first, right? Because that's where community isn't. That's why community isn't where it needs to be right now. Because we are born into a family, a destroyed we are just so separated. You can't, it's so difficult me to tell me otherwise. I mean, with divorce rates, with our prison to or school to prison pipeline, with our mental health advocacy and how much it's lacking, our healthcare system, you can't tell me that the people are doing well post COVID. I mean, with all of this being the case, it just reinforces, I mean, why I think we're so passionate about this is mental health. Like, it is not a choice. It really isn't. You are put onto this planet, and maybe, but depending on your spirituality, you chose this family for karmic, right? Okay, no, you came into this planet, had no choice, truly. But to take care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. And capitalism has taken away from that. You have to put work first, your career second, family third, and then you can put yourself last. I did that. That was what I covered in therapy last time, was how all of my hurt is because I put myself last. All of these cries for help from other people, it's because I'm the one crying for help. And so I just am grateful that I'm here, because I got to learn, I got to suffer, and I got to experiment what mental health means to me, because I think people are scared of doing that. They're scared to see their true selves. They're scared to look at themselves in the mirror. And so just for 10 seconds, say I love you. I tried it. I cried. Oh my gosh, I cried. 10 seconds. Oh my gosh. Who would ever thought that, right? That it would be difficult. But I mean, the human perseveres. Do we not?
No, if you ever see me like laughing or like aggressively nodding my head, it's just like me coping because I literally relate. Like it is
No.
just such I really don't understand how it's crazy to me that like so many first generation Americans that are all like families from different parts of the world have such a similar experience. Like, and it's really crazy because
Beautiful.
I know. I remember literally just last night, I was on the phone with my friends and like I remember we were just like we have this conversation at least once a day, I swear to God. Like, and so we're just like we're all first gen, we're all African, right? And we were just like sometimes we were just on FaceTime for so long, we just kind of like stare into the ceiling and we're just like, dang, like what is our life, right? And the thing is like I don't think people really realize just how much it affects your life being first generation American. Like that alone, like forget I have many other like, identities to me and minority groups I'm a part of that also affect me in really real ways. But just to focus on this one, like I swear it is so confusing to make any decision because it's like I swear I feel like I have my like Sudani Lameese on one side and then like my American Lameese and they're just like fighting. Like I just remember like growing up, my parents got so mad at me if I ever said I was American. Like they're like, "You're what? What do you mean you're American?" Like
Wow.
they were like, "You're Sudanese is what you are." And I'm like, because I have dual citizenship, but I'm like, I know, but like
Yes,
it's
queen. Right, right there. Parents struggle so we can get it both.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, no, but like it was just such a thing where it was really became like my parents are so prideful, so prideful. And I understand that a lot of it is also them coping of being in a country that does not really value them, and constantly seeing people disrespect them. It's growing up, that part you said about having when you see you see your parents struggle, it changes the next path you're gonna take. It changes everything, it changes the entire world. Like I remember growing up because I'm also not rich at all, very poor. And so I remember also growing up broke. Like I
No, no, we rich in experience, girl. Remember
right,
that. We are
right.
always rich. Do not
Yeah.
let the manifestation gods go again. We are rich.
But
We are
yes,
full of abundance. It
that's
just takes their time to express itself in different ways.
yes. No, I told and my thing is I never even said I was poor. Like I because I really it wasn't out of like one thing about me is I also from a young age was not embarrassed to say if I wasn't or wasn't rich. It was something where I was like, I just truly have seen what poverty looks like in other like in Sudan, for example. Poverty looks very different. Like
Right.
Sudan, it's very, I don't know, like because of the situation, because of how like politically it was all over the place. I've seen what that looks like, and I just felt way too privileged to really say that. But I also was like, I I don't know if anyone's ever heard this, but I feel like only like broke people would understand. Like there's like a difference between being poor and being broke. You know what I mean? Like being poor is like you're like
Yeah.
impoverished, right? But like being broke, you're making ends meet. And that's where I was. So like growing up, I remember seeing my parents, and it never really hit me in a way. I don't know, I guess I never understood kids that got mad at their parents for not having enough because I just kind of understood it as this is just what it is. You know what I mean? Like this is just
Right.
honestly it could have been way worse. If I'm being real with you. Like they came here, they wanted a better life for us, a better education, with political unrest in their home country it just wasn't going to work out. So I took that as an opportunity to want to do better. But the thing is as much as and I love my parents. So I also want to preface something by saying all the complaints I ever have with them also comes with a big understanding of how nuanced their lives are. Like
Mm,
they have been through
right.
way too much trauma for me to condense any decisions they make to just being like it's just too much, right? So I have a real respect for them. However, the guilt tripping is crazy. Like with immigrant parents, like I swear it was just like we came to this country for you, we did this for you, da, 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 da. And I'm always just like I didn't ask, like, but then I feel so bad for saying that, so then I'm like, no, you did though,
No,
like
don't feel bad because I took it worse. Look, 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 look. I see you 100% and I applaud you for being that understanding because I pride myself in being understanding, but I wasn't truly as a kid.
so a lot of people talk about conditional unconditional love. I truly believe my parents love me unconditionally, but it's the support that's conditional. Okay, the support is
Ah,
conditional
I like you. Ooh, you
because
changed that
it's
for me.
it's
Oh
it's
my
just true
God.
because it's like I really don't believe that your parents just obviously I'm not saying all there are many parents that are not meant to be parents, but my parents I can say with I know for sure love me and won't ever just stop loving me for any reason. But they will have to at times put their foot down and stop supporting me for things because they know that I need their support for certain things. And I had to grow out of that because I had to learn to support myself when they wouldn't. And it was them holding me back from it. And as much as I love and respect them, they aren't me. And I have my own life. My life is not meant to fulfill their every want.
Right there, like I had to come to the realization that a lot of the bickering that I had with my parents was because I was expecting them to be white American parents because that's what I needed. They wanted me to be successful in this life. And so I said, I need that. Right. So that's why I just applaud you for being so understanding because I mean, again, like we all make mistakes and we all, are people that are growing, but that was definitely mine growing up was because I couldn't be myself, right? I wasn't enough. I then went to the next best thing, which was white American. Like, that's why you see me with my like frizzy curly hair. It's because I straightened my hair all throughout middle school because I wanted to look like them because I didn't know how to handle my beauty. I'm learning to now. But you know what I mean? Like it's I understand that because you come into this country, right? And the priority is education. As a child, it's education. If not, parents go to jail. Cool. That's not that like people don't get that. Like I don't feel like if like Americans get that. Like when like an immigrant comes to this country, it's because they are in that like they're trapped. They appreciate that trap because it's at least different from the one in their country, right? And so I mean, I can speak to like my parents as well. Like my parents weren't both like they weren't both poor in Mexico, right? Like my dad went to college for a year. And so even then like again, you are navigating all of these identities and how do you do that? I mean, I think I mentioned last time, my first meeting in our Latino association at my school, I had a kid come up to me and he went, "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for that, the meeting, Woo, pride." He's like, "Speak Spanish for me then. You're not Mexican." I mean, you just have straight A's, you're in all honors. Look at your English is so good. And I had never right, like from my own community. So that's why when you talk about mental health and when you talk about navigating your relationship with your family as an immigrant or as a first gen or as a person of color in this country, right? That's why you got to put yourself first. It is not selfish. And whoever's told you that being selfish it's wrong, they're the ones that have the golden yacht, right? They're the ones that pity everyone else for having to work so much then, right? Like when you talked about the whole family like essentially going against you for wanting better, I mean, I experience that now with my mom. I am in a very fortunate opportunity where the government pays me to take care of my sister because that is her need and she has that opportunity as a US citizen. But when for example, "Hey mom, just not going to be able to make it. I'm sick." Or "Hey, like I'm just, there's this anger of, well, you have to follow through on your job. And then I took it personal and was like, we always do. I'm talking about, but I had to realize like there is this sort of anger of she doesn't have that liberty to just be like, not taking care of anyone, you know? And so after I was able to recognize that, I mean, I felt more empowered to keep choosing me because look, I've made a lot of people mad. Oh, I've made a lot of, I have stories of teachers who have literally felt offended by a high schooler. Like, I've had students who were my bestie one day and next day, you my, what do you mean? What do you mean we besties? You're my competition. And I was like, girl, are we even, are we applying to the same colleges? Are we even in the same income bracket? Like, why are we talking? Your parents pay for a private tutor, right? Like I was the private tutor. That was my job growing like in high school. I was like that was one of the ways for me to make money was to be a tutor, to essentially give off my fruits and have it be labor. So like mm, gotta put yourself first.
You have to.
And be
No,
mad.
I totally agree. Like I think that's like the cage you're in when you're first gen is just you really don't know who to choose because you feel like if you choose yourself that to you, even though that's not the case, it to you, you interpret that as not choosing your family, not really choosing you, but you're not choosing your family. And it's one of those things for me where like I swear, like I remember my friends and I were all talking, we were just all kind of frustrated one day, and we are just like our parents, like again, we love our parents, but we're also all girls and being all girls and a first gen African family, a Muslim family at that, is just, it's so hard. And so it's just like, for me, I am the youngest, but I am the only girl. So they're really protective. They really like, and it got to the point where I got so frustrated. Like I felt like I could never really fully relate to all the teenagers at school because I was like, I can't do it half the things you can do. I can't like, or like I have to figure out a way to like, express myself without disappointing my parents or like doing all these things. It was just, it got so suffocating. And I remember I actually was told by a counselor, and my brothers were also encouraging me to like seek therapy or just see something. Cause I went to a really competitive middle school, and it was, really advanced and stuff. And I appreciated the academic side of it. I did. However, it really, the the competition was so unnecessary, and it got to the point where I seriously felt like I was competing with everyone but myself, like and I'd rather compete with myself. Different like goals I have for myself, like that's what I want to be, just myself, no one else. But it's like I felt so suffocated. I remember my mom, like I wasn't like also trying to seek any kind of label to what was happening. I just needed help, right? And so I remember when my counselor was like, you should talk to your mom about it, and I tried to bring up like my counselor might think I might have like depression and anxiety. Mom, the first thing I remember she said, and I understand where she's coming from, but it did hurt, was that you're not sick. Like you're not sick. What are you talking about? And the thing is like when I was like, okay, and then I kept trying to ignore it, it just kept getting worse until I got so burnt out in high school, so burnt out, like to the point my parents had never seen before. And that's when they tried to at least kind of work with me, kind of.
Right.
And so it got to the point.
Late. It, just a little bit.
A little bit. Like it was one of those things where it was like, okay, fine, like we'll help you do this, just don't tell anybody. Like don't tell anybody you have this. So I seriously to this day have such a hard time telling people I have depression, anxiety if you're not super close to me, just because I know it is super normalized, and I guess common now, but I really, in my world it was not. You know what I mean? Like in my community you don't talk about that. It's very stigmatized, like very, very stigmatized. So I just remember my mom was like, all you need is God. You just got to pray and it'll go away. And I was just like, it's not working. You know what I mean? Like
You
I'm
mean, well,
yeah.
there's truth to that, because
Mhm.
that's what meditation is, and that's what getting to know oneself is. But they don't, right? Like that's when you're struggling, when you're in that deep state where, I mean, for me, this is what it was. My room, you couldn't see my floor. Oh God, no, you could not see my floor. You have the before picture of when I start cleaning and never an after, because I always take a nap because I got too tired and then I never finished. Um, the clothes, you wear the same outfits because they're the only ones you're willing to clean. This is me, right? You're willing to clean, so then you're just always right. And not only that, but then I mean, what more can a mother say when I don't know what your parents' experience was like, right? But for mine, my mom is one of 9 and my dad is one of 13. And so
That's
when
exactly my parents. That's so crazy. I'm sorry. You
But
get
like my dad, I remember telling me that the oldest aunt, the oldest aunt of mine was his mom. Like he was like, that's who raised me. That's when you ask about a mother figure, that's who I know as a mother figure. And so when I'm trying to ask about why my parents have why I don't have a relationship with my like grandparents, why right, it's like because they don't know. They don't know. And like I they're doing I just there's so much, right? Like, they're doing their best, but it's like, when you're a child, and those are the emotions that you're going through, like, what.
I did a very long time. Took a very long time. But I remember I did I it took me a minute, but I remember been trying to like find myself being like, no, it's fine, like my mom's right, all I need is God, like it's fine, like whatever, right? And I'm not saying you don't need, that's really your personal, like opinion, whatever you believe. That's really up to, for me personally, it just really was not doing the trick. So like I needed like professional help, and I didn't realize it for so long. But until I remember one time I was struggling so much in school that I literally was like, okay, maybe I should get ADHD tested because all my brothers have it and I don't, right? But maybe I might have it. So then I got tested, and honestly the results like really changed my perspective for a really long time, because they had told me you don't have ADHD, you're actually doing really well in the things we tested you in. You're just suppressing your emotions so much that you're mimicking the what
Oh
ADHD
my
symptoms
God.
are.
Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so
yes,
they were
yes.
like, you can't, yeah, they were like, you
No.
can't focus, you can't, like, I kept telling them my memory's off, I can't, I'm never really there, like, I'm just struggling so much, even keeping a conversation with someone. And they were like, that's because you literally will not, like, you refuse to process your emotions so much to the point that you're like swapping out memories with the things that your intrusive thoughts, you know what I mean, of just like the trauma you've been through. And it's just insane. That's why I honestly, I'm a psych major right now. I don't know. I'm thinking with it. I don't know yet. But regardless, the reason I really even got into it was just because in our communities, like I really don't know many families that don't have at least one mentally ill person. And I what I mean by that, I mean that in the most like classiest, respectful way. Because I'm also mentally ill, but I mean like I don't know anyone who doesn't show clear signs of depression, anxiety, ADHD for one, because I have my brother who has really aggressive ADHD, and it's really gotten in the way of a lot of experiences in life for him. And him being a black man on top of that just ruins it, because he was sometimes getting in trouble for maybe just talking too much or maybe getting in little arguments here and there. He was never ever a violent person, ever, in my entirety of knowing him. He's never laid a hand on anyone. However, because he was just super loud and like energetic, they took that as him being menacing. And it's honestly so hard to have this kind of conversation with my brother, because I don't want to have to tell him this. I really don't. But this is the reality of our situation. I told him, Muhammad, like, you don't have the luxury of reacting the same way a white boy could. Okay, you just don't. Like, if you get mad, rightfully so, because honestly, a lot of people are really prejudiced to me and my siblings, right? If you get mad, even if it's right, like you're allowed to get mad, you have to keep your cool. Like, your name's Muhammad, you're black, like you fit the description of any suspect, you know what I mean, suspect. Like, it's just, you don't get that luxury. And I hate having to tell him that, but it's something he honestly is like, you're right. And it's something I get so stressed about, because it's just the reason we need to talk about mental health more is because the stigma gets in the way of finding the help you might need. Like, when you don't find the help you need, you could start to turn just into our, listen, generational trauma is real, okay? Like, generational trauma is so real. People don't understand what colonialism and colonization does to the people of that country and generations afterwards. The things that happened in Sudan decades and years ago affected the people so much that everyone has a hustle culture kind of mindset, because that's the only way they can survive, because they don't have any generational wealth. Everything has been stripped from them, right? So now the way they're thinking is, I need to teach my children to survive the same way I do, so that their children can survive and their children can survive. And honestly, the way you survive is mostly being palatable to white people, is honestly through white supremacy. It's just so exhausting, to the point that my parents, and that's why I can't hate them for how they reacted to me and my mental health. I don't, because I really do understand that to them it was something that could maybe even make the community turn on me. And to them, community is everything. Community is their life support. Like, that's blood, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know how to operate here without their friends and the people that understand their life, because nobody else will understand the trauma the way these people do, you know? So yeah, it's really real. It's tough.
Yeah, I think trying to then, since we're back to our beginning of like community building and mental health, um, so essentially, I guess what we can say, maybe you can agree. I'm not a social worker, so do not take this as like 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 legal diagnosis or whatever. But essentially, if you're not relaxing more than you are being, you need to work on your mental health. That is the best way to put it. It's not like we can talk about it existing in our communities, like, yes, of course, but this is a greater movement. Like, this is now involving everyone. Like, this is now taking down white supremacy, capitalism, like all of the isms, all of the systems. Like, when you put your mental health first, none of these things can exist. None of them. Because in your world, you are truly divine, pure, and authentic, and like none of those things like they don't align with that. And so I love that you touched on hustle culture, because that's where I'm on the opposite end. I mean, okay, my actions say one thing, my mindset and my wanting is another, because I technically have 3 jobs. So, but I prioritize myself. Like my 8 hours of sleep. Oh my goodness. Like the past few days, I've gotten 6. And compared to high school Jimena, who would get an hour a day, I I'm grateful and I'm lucky. But when I get my 8 hours of sleep, when I get 10 hours of sleep, no one can take away my happiness that day. No one. Doesn't matter how much traffic, how many middle fingers are up at nothing. Like I'm just as happy as can be. When I drink my water, oh God. When I eat my like the bare minimum, like people think that like, oh my gosh, that's so easy. No, it isn't. How many people? Let me make this clear. I'm only 20, but I've worked 10, 8 jobs. Okay, let me make something clear. Let me make something clear. The only reason people have breaks is because of the whole migrant movement. Farmers, because they were unions, right? Unions is what allowed us to get a 30-minute break, an hour break of 15. So God bless for the people. Okay, so businesses, though, don't make money off of breaks, do they? They don't make money off of you taking your time. They don't make money off of you prioritizing you. And so I remember one of my last jobs, I never got a break until my last day that I quit because I told them so. I went, I'm gonna leave or I'm gonna take my break. And they were like, well, you can't just. And I'm like, well, decide. Because legally, I should have been getting my breaks for the last 5 months, but I haven't. And not only that, you then don't get paid enough. So then you have to constantly cover shifts. And so on top, you then have to rearrange your life because you're like, hey, I can't make ends meet. Oh my God, you're only 20. You're only 18. You're only 16. Why are you worried about this? It's so then you then move on to this idea of advocating for yourself, right? I think that's where the next step of like mental health is like everyone deserves an advocate. And I learned that through my sister. Okay, my sister is nonverbal. She can communicate in different ways or forms that I know, right? Family knows. But there's like as I'm getting trained to be her CNA, to take care of her, all this training, all these legalities of this is what a person with, intellectual disability, like these are their rights. You are an advocate for them. You are for them. And so getting that experience growing up that taught me I can be my advocate too. Right? When we were talking about seeing our parents struggle, the reason why I wanted to be a lawyer was because I remember my dad having to essentially get accused of permanent damage in an apartment when it was a fault of the apartment complex. It was a whole thing, right? Because they don't listen to us. They don't care, right? Unless we care about ourselves. And so as beautiful as it is that your mom wanted to keep that community, right, that you guys had, that speaks to how fake our communities are now, like nowadays. I'm sorry, but they're not authentic. After we had talked, but before we talked this time around, I came up with a phrase that hopefully you can agree with or add on to, but community building is standing in your power while standing with your people. That is what community building is. Okay. Why did my communities that I was seeking in high school fail? Because I wasn't my authentic self. Because I was in that community because as a Latina, I should, right? Because I'm smart. And they tell me that if you're smart and you're Latina, you should be there. Right? But why do I have to listen? Why? Right? Who says I have to? Our parents do, right? That's where a lot of the conflict and guilt comes from. Well, you're not doing it this way, but you're not doing. But at the end of the day, the beauty is they can't control you. They can't make every decision, even if they tried. And at the end of the day, truly, truly, you only have yourself. For me, like when I was sitting here having to essentially decolonize my mind, I then remembered what I always loved: people, connection, conversating. You know, part of the book that I was reading, this is what they tell you to say when you wake up every morning, and I have, and oh my goodness, does it change the way you say that you are awake, that you see the sun, that you're going to give your gratitude to the sun, to everyone, and to yourself, because you're given yet another day to be you. Instead, people are worried that they're having to go do another shift today. What do I have to do today? I have to clean the house. I have to take care of family. No, you literally, I am an example. I don't know if you can agree. I'm an example of you can literally do everything right and still fail. And not because failure is something to be sad about. I'm proud of failing, because if I didn't fail, I would not be on this journey of, I know who Jimena is. I do not want to be 50 saying, who's Jimena? No. Tomorrow, I want to know who Jimena is. Today, I want to know who Jimena is, right? Yesterday, I want to be able to analyze who was Jimena, what worked and what didn't, and what can I bring into today? Because as much as people forget, literally all I have is this moment. Like, I have nothing else. It doesn't matter what I have in my bank account. It doesn't matter what I have in my house. If I have it's just, this is what I have. Capitalism and colonial, it told you needed more. This isn't enough. This isn't enough. Why do you think people, honestly, when they start doing their mental health work, can't meditate? Because they don't know how to breathe, because they've been all their life.
I love that you added that last part, honestly, because that's so I had such a hard time learning to meditate because I could not stop stressing about the next move. Like, I swear it's just but no, you're right about the whole like how fake our communities have become, because honestly no one is showing up as themselves. No one. Everyone is trying, like I personally live a double life. I'm being real with you. Like, I have my real life with the real people I actually care about, and then I have my life with the people I have to be palatable for so they can leave me alone and not brand my family as a bad family. That is genuinely what it is. Like, and I hate that I have to say that. It doesn't automatically mean I'm doing bad things. It's simply that I can show up as myself, my authentic self. And so it's just that I really feel like, and this whole idea of good and bad is really up to the community at times, which I think is so frustrating because you don't even have any room to actually have your own opinions. It's capitalism also has really, like, honestly broken community apart, in my personal opinion. Like, it's gotten to the point where it's every man for themselves. I remember I started to think of jobs that would really, honestly, growing up, I was the same way. I was like, I'm gonna go to Harvard Medical School, I'm gonna go I'm gonna be a doctor because my parents want that, because the community would respect that, and because I make a lot of money. And then I was like, what am I saying right now? You know what I mean? Like, what am I saying right now?
You
And
know
so
how to get all that money? Like, that's that part. Like, it's
yes,
those things. Like,
like,
we want what we can't handle, truly.
honestly, because it's what I thought I needed, even though now here's what it is. I definitely want to look comfortable. I want to have insurance, health insurance, right? Things like that, things that would like not stress me out for generations. But for me, it's more like I just don't want to make the driving, source money. Like, money honestly has ruin my life. Like, I feel like everything I can't have days off, or access to everything. It's because of money. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we think, and that's what I think people need to understand about certain communities, is that um that hustle culture doesn't come from nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's coming from necessity. And me personally, my mental health has taken such a blow from trying to be perfect for everyone when it's literally impossible. Even trying to find, I remember my friends and I were also talking about this last night. We were all really upset because we all had somebody in our lives at the time that there was a disconnect with, simply because they weren't first gen, and we hated that. We hated that the disconnect was simply because they could never understand, like, why we're struggling. But truly, when you don't live the life, you don't really understand the struggles that come with it, because it means you are constantly second guessing yourself. You really lose trust within yourself. You feel guilty all the time for any decision you make. Everything you do, if it's just you existing, is a decision. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that's bigger than it needs to be. And it's just gotten to the point where I have to, like, I used to think I had to choose one or the other in my community or not, but I also don't want to lose my culture. Like, I'm still tied to my culture. I'm fortunate enough to have been able to visit my home country a couple times. I'm fortunate enough to understand the language fluently, speak it like a good C average maybe, but like I'm fortunate enough to be tied to my culture in real ways, and I don't want to lose it, and I don't think I have to. I think you can be two things at once. I think you can take care of yourself and your mental health and choose yourself and whatever makes you you while still being part of a community to help each other. But that's the thing is if you're all fake and acting like, this is not that or this is not that, like you're literally upholding all the wrong values and ideals that are literally making everyone else want to stray away from the community. And it breaks my soul.
I think this is I know I said no assumptions, but I'm gonna make a guess. The reason why you essentially get along so well with people like you is because they're on a similar healing journey as you are. As a first gen in America, you grow up a lot quicker than most people. I was 7 filling out legal documents for my mom. Like when when people tried messing with me about that stuff, I'm like, hold up, like my resume legally does not allow me to put that I was an interpreter at 7, but like I was, excuse me. And what did that do for me? It made me as an adult then want to seek a label. I wasn't enough. I wasn't allowed to speak Spanish at school. Like I tried getting into a class because my parents didn't teach me. I taught myself and they said you're Mexican, no. So, like when you go about I think that's what the beauty about life is. Everyone gets to choose what identity means to them. For some, it means abandoning your entire culture, okay, and creating a new one. Cool. For others, it means keeping things and taking away things, you know. But the biggest thing that I believe that you're just setting boundaries. You're just putting to practice what you're learning, which is, hey, I'm not going to make you happy, and a lot of the times it's because they can't make themselves happy. It's not because you're not doing the right thing. I'm sure if they were more healed, they would accept you more. But that's not the point, right? We only have this moment. So I'm proud that you also see that duality. This is how I see identity. Okay. Intersectionalism is a word that means that everything comes together, right? There's always an overlapping. I love Venn diagrams for this reason in the word mutually exclusive, because this means like just because one is one thing, it does not mean that it cannot be the other, right? Venn diagrams allow you to have that middle line where you can have that separate identity, but then have it where it comes together, you know? And so in this day and age too, how many generations of immigrants do we have in this country? The initial immigrants are now leading the country, right? So like obviously like there's just this long history of doing what we're doing. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to fall asleep. And if you don't, you're going to try to find a reason to or find a way to go to sleep. And your sleep is literally the only thing that gets you to the next day. And so long you're able to sleep well at night, by all means, right? Because you are having to kind of perform, but you know the next step. You know what your future holds. You know who you are, you know? And so I love that you touched on that because people just always think they have to be one thing.
This is why honestly I really do believe that everything that like I was born into, like, honestly my community became toxic over time. I like to say, just because there are new milestones being hit that became the new standard and things started to change. But in the beginning, when everyone was just on ground zero, right, like I just remember the cookouts, like we would just have fun, everyone was just chilling with each other. It was not that deep, it was really never that deep, like, and I just miss those days because nothing was too serious yet. It was really just, do you want to play with me, what's on your plate, like it's just simple as that. And we used to do so many things together, and I felt like I had the biggest family in the entire world. Like I remember growing up, our parents told us like you always call whoever that's in your community your cousin, no matter what. So every American growing up was so confused of why I had so many cousins. And they were like, I thought you said your cousins didn't live here. I was like, well, no, not my actual ones, like my cousins. And they're like, and I just started to learn how
Mm.
a lot of the time Western culture, like it's really not close and familial like this. They're really by
They get
themselves.
out at 18.
They
Why
get
do you,
that's
why do you think they got a college fund? Get out.
I do want to say one thing is for anyone watching, and if you're part of a community or want to be part of a different kind of community, you can do that. Like I know to you, maybe and I said this last time, I know I'm gonna always remind people, but like community does not have to be some big like park filled of people. It really can be as big as 3 people. Like it doesn't have to be, it's just who you
Maybe just your dogs.
who it could be your dog. It doesn't I know I honestly, for me, I have to say the people I go to every single time I turn to the absolute most behind my family is my small group of friends. Like they're the ones that have real genuine uh love for me in a way that's not like I'm not secretly competing with them. Like we all really just are so
Right.
happy for each other. We push each other to do better, even if one of us starts to like not in like a parental oh do better, no, like we also understand, life is hard, but like if one of
No,
us
they
starts to
keep
give
you in
up on our
check. They keep you in
exactly.
check because they know your worth. They see you when you don't see yourself.
Exactly. But no, I that's all I was gonna say is just find the people that make you feel like you can be yourself in a safe way, but also encourage you to do it. Not just accept you or I don't like tolerance. I don't like teaching tolerance. I really don't. Like it's really more about respecting each other and actually appreciating each other's existence. That's simple as that. But I want to give you a chance to leave with any words have or any advice for anybody while I'm listening.
I mean, I'm going to piggyback that last note because I think, okay, you can only respect other people if you respect yourself first. And so that's why it's so important to put yourself first. What do you live by? What do you believe in? What are you able to tolerate? And what aren't you able to tolerate? For how long? To what extremes? Because like you said, that is when you attract the few or the many people that are going to truly have your back. When you know who you are, not always, it's hard. It's hard in this society. But when you see that spark and those people see it and want to be lit up by it, not in a selfish, only me, not in a, oh, you're light, I don't want you to be, no. In a way where everyone can shine because the more the better, right? We don't want darkness here anymore.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider donating to support this work by youth activists across the country. Visit ycdiversity.org to make a donation or to get involved. For more information and updates, check out YCD's Instagram and TikTok at YCDiversity, along with our website.